After seeing the movie Just Mercy, just want everybody to know, I'm feeling super inspired now to help my dad get out. The story of Henry McMillan, I think that was the guy name. Let me make sure. It pretty much moved me because his case, um, just in terms of how he was convicted, the legal strategies of the prosecution was very similar to that in which was used to prosecute my dad. And basically what I'm saying is they used two statements that was written by now two felons. In the movie and the book Just Mercy, it was only one statement by a felon who was convicted of robbery, I believe, or murder for 30 years in prison, and was pretty much threatened, put on death row before his trial, and scared half to death to write a false statement about a man who was innocent, just so that he can save himself from dying or experiencing life on death row for the rest of his life. This is similar to my dad's case because he's not on death row, but he still possibly could die in prison because the two co-defendants on his case both wrote statements after being tortured and harassed, threatened by police, to write statements involving my dad in the crime, even though the two co-defendants of my dad's case both admitted that they didn't see or was with my dad at the time of the crime, but the cops forced the statement out of them. And even though the court was told not to use those statements against my dad in the courtroom, I think it was called a redacted statement, where they take his name out of the statements and they still read it in court, and they look towards my dad, and every time they say X, everybody in the courtroom know who they were talking about, which I guess in the court of law proved my dad to be guilty in their eyes. And regardless if he was or he wasn't, the crime that my dad was found guilty for was second-degree murder, for one statement saying that he carried the cash register out of a store that was being robbed at the time of a murder. And then two, the other statement said that he was asleep in a car waiting for two people who was in the store robbing, and one person who ended up killing the clerk. Like, as they were in there and came out, my dad was in the car waiting, so happened, and was asleep. So either way, like, those are two different statements, and one being one actually proves his innocence, being as though he was in the car asleep and didn't have anything to do with it. But the first one, even if you want to use that to say, he was there, he was a part of the crime, it just simply says that he carried the cash register out of the store. Not to say that's right in any way, shape, or form, but of course it's not enough to say he should die in prison, right? Yeah, and the crazy thing is, the person who actually did the killing is coming home this year, or is already home after seeing the parole board. one or the other. He might be home already, or I know for a fact that he should be coming home within this year. And my dad is still sentenced to life in prison, which causes me more frustration just knowing that my dad probably will never get a chance to walk the streets with me, go to the movies with me, eat a real home-cooked meal with me, unless something is done. And luckily, and thank God, we have some ideas around what can be done. In fact, we've done an extreme amount of research to figure out if there's something that we can do. And right now, our best shot, I'm sharing this with some of you, is to reach out and get some support from people all across the country, in places where things are being done to help people who were charged with second-degree murder that never took a life, who were considered an accomplice, and who was actually sentenced to harsher sentences than their co-defendants who were sentenced with first-degree murder, but somehow ended up receiving less time. So yeah, I say all that to say, that's my reflection right now. I'm also reading a book, Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson, and I started to see immediately in the beginning of the movie that they portrayed Mr. McMillan's character to be a little bit more, just like overly anxious and hype about his legal situation. But in the book, it describes him as, being really humble and thankful that Bryan Stevenson even considered showing up to meet with him in the first place. But it was definitely, a little exaggeration, making things a little more dramatic, which made it good in my eyes. Wasn't upset about it, just had some thoughts about it in the beginning, knowing that I read how that relationship started. But other than that, I'm looking to just document this. If I have any more thoughts about my reflections, I'll be sure to share it. And until then, peace.